Hi everybody, welcome to my boat project.
In this episode of my boat project, I'm going to show you how I sanded, repaired, and painted the bottom of my 1971 Aquarius 21. Oh, well, I have been busy sanding the bottom side, the underbelly of my boat, and I just finished, well, the most recent thing I finished was the hull. So from the waterline up, that's all done. And now it's time to move on to the belly, and there's a lot here to work on. So what I'm gonna do here, if you can see, is finish sanding that area right there where you see some of the blue. I'm just doing a loose job over it the first time to get all the crusties off. Then I'm going to go over it with some guide coat, the black guide coat powder, and then sand that down until then I'll be able to see all the spider cracks. And once I see all the spider cracks, then I can tear it down to bare glass or not, depending on how it is. And here we see the belly of the boat. It's dirty. That's the old bottom paint. You can see some of those spider cracks in there. There's some bigger cracks that will be ground down. And of course, there's the centerboard. Lots and lots of rust has pitted that thing. It is going to be a pain to get out of there, and even a bigger pain to restore it. I'll grind down those pits there as well. And here is what I did. Same old sander, working great. But for as porous as this gel coat is, it really is quite amazing how much pressure and time it took to sand down just what you can see there, the old ablative bottom paint. You guys ever use Dry Guide? This stuff right here. It's pretty neat. It's a carbon powder, and you rub it on the surface you want to sand because it will penetrate into any cracks, crevices, dips, anything like that. And then when you go over it with sandpaper or a sander, it takes off the high stuff and will leave the low stuff, the cracks, the dips, things like that that you might not be able to see, especially on a white surface. So here's what it looks like after I put it on. You can see the cracks a whole lot better right there. And as I put it on, I just rub it around. I try to do circles and go, bah! No! It's just out of reach. Anyways, I go in circles and I'll go back and forth and forward and back, and I'll do different directions, and that way it'll get into the cracks better. If I just wiped it and just went one direction, it would not show all of the cracks. So I got to crawl underneath the axle and get that thing. Fell out of reach, and then I will show you again when I'm done putting it on, and then when I do some sanding. So I told you this stuff is carbon powder, and I don't really know what that does for my carbon footprint, but here's my carbon handprint. Before, after. Look how those appear. Well, it looks like I've been in war, I've been in battle, and that's what happens when you use the Dry Guide, especially when it's over your head and it all comes falling down on you. So, hey, oh, it's all over my back too because some fell down and I rolled over it. But I got it. Take a look. I'm wearing this one the whole time this time because last time I was applying it, so much got down on my face. It reminded me of when I was in the Navy doing firesides, cleaning the inside of the boiler. And it was really hard to get off, and I got it off of my face because I could scrub on that with soap, but it left it around my eyes, so it looked like I had eyeliner on for 2 or 3 days. So do a little bit of sanding and see how this stuff turns out. I want to show you how this stuff's working. It's not working as well as it has in the past. All right, as you can see in this area, I put the dry guide over it but haven't sanded it off, and you can see the cracks pretty well. Over here, I went over it a few times and it didn't take it all down, and you can see how I did it there. But then right next to it where I did take it all down, I can see the cracks, but they're not as prevalent as they are over here.
Hey there. I've been using a belt sander on the bottom of the boat to clear away the... Well, hold on a second. Oh, that's better already.
Get so used to having that thing on. Geez, no wonder I couldn't see. Anyways, I've been... Woo, I'm covered. Look at this. Anyways, I've been using a belt sander to strip off the gel coat, and it's a lot of work, but I think it's better than the angle iron, because the angle iron will leave too much dips. So you can see all these cracks in here, and there's some low spots. I'm gonna have to take the center board out to be able to get that better. Plus, it's time to start working on the center board. Now I want to show you some things I'm going to have to do. So right there, that hole, don't know what it is, but it's hard, and it needs to be chiseled out of there or something, because that's the screw hole for the center board. That is an area that needs to be faired. It's not too deep, but it needs some work. Of course, all of this. So now that I know that what's under these cracks is just not quite superficial, but it's not structurally damaging. And then of course, the big job of removing this pitted turkey. And then I get to work on that, and that'll be a fun project to show you. Rust removal and then filling all those pits. I mean, that thing is deep. I don't know if it's quite 1/4 of an inch, but it's pretty deep. So I guess I'll fill it all with thickened epoxy. Okay, I finished sanding and prepping my surface, and now it's time to mix up some Total Fair. I'm gonna put it on this granite countertop piece that I have here. Stuff is very sticky, which makes it hard to work with. So in that sense, I don't like it. Any amount. I mean, if I want an itty bitty, if I want just this amount, I can. Same quantity here. Is that the same? Does that look the same to you? I think I need a wee bit more blue. There we go. It's very hard to mix. Definitely don't use a bowl for it. You gotta put it on pallets and just turn it. It's like...
So this stuff sands real easily, but I still want to get it as smooth as possible because the more sanding, the more time it takes. Look at this stuff. I need to use my palette. But I'm gonna put the peel ply on it, and that'll smooth it out too. So what I do is I put the peel ply on and then I run over it. It'd be nice if I had a rolling pin.
Gross. So satisfying. I ran out, so I didn't cover everything, but... Oh, I already ripped that one off. Never mind. So nice. Gonna sand it anyways, but it does definitely seem to be smoother. I put on the thickened epoxy, the Total Fair, and with peel ply over it, and I peeled off the peel ply and I sanded everything. I sanded this and I just did a real quick sand over the entire boat bottom. And now I'm going to put on some more Total Fair and fill in any of the gaps that I previously missed. So there's like a little bubble, but this turned out really nice. And that's one thing I like about the peel ply is if I were to try to make this shape with just a putty knife or something, it wouldn't work because it's so sticky and just smears around, looks really bad. So what I do is I goop it on and get it roughly the right amount and shape, put the peel ply over it, and then form it with maybe my hand or something, maybe a 2 or 3 inch plastic pipe like PVC would work to act as a rolling pin to go over it, and that would have worked better here. But you also don't want to lay it on too thick. So I had this, and there's some other areas that definitely need more because I didn't put it on as thick as it needed for the hole, but you don't want it too thick anyway, so I knew it was going to take a second coat. Have my palette of green goo. All right, so what I want is to have a solid layer of the green goo over the fiberglass because I sanded down and I can see the fibers and I don't want to. I want to give it a little extra protection because if I run this thing up on a beach, this is where it's going to be rubbing. So I want to give it a little extra material to wear down should that ever be a peel it off if you can help it. Sometimes that's how I got some of the bubbles in before. The gaps. And if there's folds that go in, if the folds come out, that's okay, they're easy to sand, but if they go down, then it's gonna leave a gap. So you squeeze it, smooth it out like that, pulling the fabric tight, try to make it smooth of its own accord. As far as without finger dabs or anything. So we made this. It's I think a 2-inch pipe. All right, finished with the second coat of Total Fair, and I did a whole lot more than I did the first time. It's pretty thin right there. I was just seeing if I could get it into any of the spider cracks. So you see the spider cracks there, and I cut it thin, and then I'll sand over it. I'm not really too worried about perfection on the bottom side. I just don't want there to be any pockets for things to hide, you know, no rough, nothing rough, no real deep crevices. I just put on that yellow tape right there, and it's painter's tape, and it is incredibly hard to follow the water line on a rounded surface. So I am not thrilled with that line. I know it looks rumply here, but that's not a big deal. What is a big deal is this. See that? That's going to make a visible mark. So I don't quite know how I can do that. And then here you can see how it goes up and down again. Right there, not great. You know, this upper portion doesn't matter. It's that sharp little mark. So yeah, I know I could do it again and again and again, work on it throughout the day and night, and it's just not worth it. It is really hard. I think I probably used the wrong kind of tape. Electrical tape I know would have curved better, but I don't want it to peel off the paint. I could go at it with a razor blade, but I don't trust that I could cut a line straight enough that would be any better. And I also don't trust that I could do it without cutting into the tape or the paint. I'm trying to lift this up a little bit so it's not such a harsh angle. All right, now it is time to apply my primer barrier coat epoxy. And there's the other side of it. Got all my stuff ready. That's in case I make a mess. I've got my gas mask on because it's really a horrible smell. I'm using my foam roller and my pan. So this is all ready. I'm going to start from the back because the wind is coming from the front and it's blowing this way, so that way I won't be breathing as much. Even with my gas mask on, I still want to work that direction. All right, just dump on in there, and since I used an even mixture of 3-to-1 before, I can dump this whole thing in there. This is the hardener, and kind of neat looking. Stir it up real good. Make sure I get all the chunks down at the bottom, really thick down at the bottom. I want to use my drill impeller, or propeller rather.
I am sitting here out in the backyard,
right, it's all mixed up. Time to roll it on. Now this kind of roller does not hold very much paint. And I know this is not paint, but I'm going to use the term paint universally. It covers real well though. So that's about it. That's one. All right, done. So take a look. It's all done, stem to stern. I still have quite a bit left, and since it is a two-part, I can't really use it another time, so I'm going to start back in the stern again and put on a second coat. A little bit too soon to put on a second coat.
Well, I want to share with you some things I learned during this project and also fill in some gaps of what you may not have seen. So for starters, the first thing I did with the bottom was I pressure washed it. I did that about a year ago when I first bought the boat. I brought it home and gutted the inside and pressure washed everything inside and out. So that pre-step was already done, and then I sanded what I could reach while it was on the trailer, and that was a pain. I think I would have been better off removing the trailer first, but I was a little bit leery about climbing underneath it without the trailer as an added support. So even after I added the boat stand here and lifted it up from the trailer, it still stayed, the trailer stayed underneath it for quite a while. And just for anybody who saw my last video of raising the boat, I want to tell you that it has been up on these boat stands for 8 months now. And I have not seen any sign of weakness, of failure, of sagging, of nothing. So it's been great. So I am perfectly comfortable underneath there now. Okay, now you saw me use the dry coat, the dry guide. I don't know that I made it clear enough at that time that it was a complete and utter waste of time. Now, I've used dry guide before. I used it on my hull with the paint. I put on some layers of paint, and then to see if I was done, if I got it all, I put on the dry guide, and it showed me the cracks, the crevices, the dips, the low points that still needed some work. It worked great. And then I used it on the bottom, which was just gel coat. And it showed the cracks and crevices at first, but then when I sanded over the top to get down that initial layer, there was none left over in the cracks and crevices. I don't know why it didn't get down there. I don't know what the heck happened. I doubt I sanded too much, but I deemed it a complete waste of time. Oh yeah, the brilliant idea I had about the rolling pin. I found a pipe, like I think a 3-inch pipe is exactly what I wanted, a little PVC thing. It just didn't work out. I tried it all different ways, you know, rolling with the palm of my hand, my fingers, this way and that, and mostly it smeared, and it didn't really do a very good job of what I wanted. Perhaps a real rolling pin would work better. Don't know. I haven't tried it. I'll let you try that. I love peel ply. It's great, but it's a bit expensive and you can only use it once. I've tried reusing it and it doesn't really work out so well. And it's hard to get it on perfectly straight the first time, because if you don't, you have to pull some of it up and readjust it, and that pulls the thickened epoxy loose, and then it introduces air pockets. So do your best to get it on the right way the first time, and if you do have to peel it up, make sure you apply maybe more epoxy and smush it all down really, really good. And that's what you can do on the outside of the peel ply, maybe with the rolling pin. Oh yeah,
and I wasted about half a gallon of my 2-part epoxy barrier coat primer because I really overestimated how much I would need for everything I used it on. I used it on my centerboard, I used it on the bottom of the boat here. And each time I did, I poured out at least twice as much as I needed because I didn't want to mix it up again. But the problem is that would have been a better idea. It's not that hard. But what happened was I ended up wasting it. Now, what I did here was after I completed the bottom on the first coat, I got to the front and I saw I had enough left over to do it again. I came back to the aft of the boat and started again. In some places it worked out well, other places it chunked up. And so that needed to be sanded off. Another thing I had to do was I had to sand the entire bottom because I waited too long to apply the second, third, and fourth coat. And that is completely because I did not read the instructions again right before I used it. I had previously, months ago, but I forgot that you're supposed to apply 3 to 6 layers. Now this is a trailer sailor, so it's not going to be sitting in water for weeks and months, years at a time. It's only going to be on for, a day or a weekend at a time. So it doesn't need as many layers as it would if this was a blue water boat. But because I waited too long to apply the true second coat, not the one that I had to sand off because it was all chunky, I had to sand it to get the amine blush off. Oh, I could have washed it too, but because it was so chunky, I did wash it first, but because it was so chunky, I needed to sand anyways. So the way it is supposed to be applied is you put on one coat. When it passes the thumb test, the finger test, meaning you push on it, and when you come away, if there's none on your thumb, and there's a little bit of a dent, then it's perfect. If it comes off on your thumb, you have to wait a little bit. If you push in and you can't push in, then you've waited too long. So you want to find that time while it's still a little bit soft to reapply multiple coats. So I have a total of 4 coats on this, and I was able to do it all in one day. And after I did the 4th coat, I then put on the blue paint. Well, next up in future videos is going to be me removing the centerboard by myself and then installing it with a friend. Could have done it by myself, but I had the offer of a friend and it took less time. I could have done it by myself, but it was much more smooth and easy with an assistant. I'm also going to have another video of restoring the centerboard, so come back to my boat project soon and you get to see the continuation of my work.